trying to say, I'm always advocating for that with Dagan, going, I don't think you can just sort of open it up and say, okay, they're going to go on sale such and such a day. He's already got a list of people who have email addresses for people who have expressed an interest in buying a High Society Regency Edition hardcover of, I think, about 200 people now. So there's 150 of them, and there's 200 people clamoring for them already. Again, I'm not a hardcovers guy. I never wanted to do hardcovers. I have been backed into the corner, and it's like, okay, my only interest is how much money does Aardvark Anaheim get. I will find out of this. I am saying to Dagan, please don't go all Brian Jones on this. I don't want 150, 100% perfect hardcovers with all of these amazing features. And when I finally get the check for Aardvark Anaheim, I get a check for, $912 out of however much money was brought in on this, because this is how much it costs to produce. So, that's backstage pass stuff, but it's all still in flux. It's Dagan's company is Dagan's company. My company is my company, and Dagan paid Marquis however much Dagan paid Marquis to print 150 extra copies of the latest remastered edition and ship them to him. So that's already an expense. That's going to come off of however much money comes in. But for the people who are going, I have to have the hardcover. Well, okay, there's only going to be 150 of them, because that's the way the logistics works out. This is the publisher that I'm working with. So go ahead.
It'll come up on the Facebook group where something comes up, like a collected service archive or collected following service or whatever, and there's somebody who will respond, when's Dave going to do hardcovers? And then the Regency Edition tease came out, and somebody else went, oh, I'm just not into hardcovers. And it's just, smacking your head of, no one's going to be happy 100%. And how do we make everybody happy? And and that's, it's like, okay, there's 10 guys clamoring for hardcovers, and there's 10 guys clamoring for service archive, and only 3 of those guys are the same guys. And that's what I just started shaking my head like, I can ask, and the answer's probably going to be no.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're still really, really in early days on this. I mean, one of the things that Dagan and I agreed on early on was because the hardcovers are going to be this expensive, and this is like sticker shock on steroids for service fans who were, hoping that there'd be a High Society hardcover that they could get for $40 or whatever. It's like that's not going to happen, because none of this triangulates over at that price point, which is why it was okay, instead of having service number 1, a remastered edition, as an incentive or an add-on with the High Society hardcover, why don't we do it as a separate thing? So it's one of those, you might be in the category of you can only afford to buy the remastered individual comic books, and you can only buy the low end. Like if I was buying, which I'm not, but if I was a buyer, I would be one of the guys going, okay, I can get a facsimile of number 1, the size it was supposed to be printed, and working the way they're supposed to, and the Gene Day Star Wars ad all on the back cover instead of partly on the front cover, and it cost me $10. Like, okay, I'm in for $10. That was one of the things that Dagan was talking about, losing on the Spawn 10 Kickstarter, which would be the next one coming up. And I said, I don't think you can really do that. Like, there was only about 47 people who went for the absolute cheapest $10 Cerebus number 1 facsimile. And I'm going, on the $52,000 that came in, that's a rounding error of, $470. So I don't think you can lose that. We've got to have a $10 Spawn 10 as well, and just figure, okay, if we don't lose money on it, we're certainly not going to make any money on it when you factor in how much it costs to print, how much the packaging costs, how much the labor costs, and how much the shipping costs. But that's one of those things of, you've got to have an access point way down here at the bottom end, which is where I would be buying. But when it gets up to the high end, it's like, well, we're doing high end stuff. So with the Cerebus number 1, what we're going to be trying to do. Originally, the next project was going to be Swords at 40, which was going to be Swords Volume 1, which was the game changer, reprinting the material chronologically in trade paperback format. We didn't know it was a game changer at the time, but it certainly became a game changer. The interest in Cerebus is so limited, so severely limited in the comic book field, that immediately we were starting to think, no, that's using up the first 4 issues in one project, and I don't think we want to do that. We want to do Cerebus number 2 the same way that we did Cerebus number 1, and I think the emphasis that we have now is, how do we do a Cerebus number 1 that's available with Cerebus number 2, so the people who didn't get in on the Cerebus number 1 Kickstarter can get in on Cerebus number 1 and Cerebus number 2, and then Cerebus number 3 somewhere up ahead. I mean, the timeline, as I say, with Kickstarter are extended. You're looking at 4 or 5 months from the time that you buy it to the time that you actually get it, which means doing the first 4 issues of Cerebus is probably going to take 2.5 to 3 years. But that's good. That's good if we can maximize how much money Aardvark Vanaheim gets. Like I say, I acquiesce to this. Look, there's no point in me doing The Strange Death of Alex Raymond and thinking that I'm going to make money at this. No, nobody wants me doing this. People want Cerebus number 1. To a degree, they want Cerebus number 2 less than they want Cerebus number 1, and Cerebus number 3 less than they want Cerebus number 2, and then the drop-off is drastic from there. The only big market thing that we've got is Spawn 10, because Spawn 10 sold 900,000 copies, or whatever it sold. It's pretty close to 900,000 copies. So that's the only time that Dave Sim was even known as existing in the comic book field. So that's why we're doing Spawn 10 next, is hoping to get Todd to, which he said he will do, is talk it up on his social media, telling his Spawn fans, you all got to buy Spawn 10 remastered by Dave Sim, because this is the coolest, and here's all the covers, and et cetera, et cetera. If he does that, then it's very possible that we could actually have a substantial grown-up payday for a change instead of trying to figure out how to get a $50 book into the hands of the 10 people that want it, and sorry, you just can't make money on it because people aren't willing to pay that much money. So that's the theory that we're working on, is once we have, taking the 600 people, I still have no idea where Dagan James found 600 people.
I was number one.
To buy Cerebus number one. It's like, okay, but you now, as I say to Dagan, you now have the benefit of the doubt. You tell me what you want to do, and if I can live with it, I'll live with it, because you have the track record. And I still don't know how much money Aardvark Anaheim gets of the $52,000. It's like, I don't want the money until all of this is done, because then it's the same thing as the advance game. Here's this giant check from Dagan James, and after we crunched all the numbers and subtracted all of the expenses divided by 2, here's what you get. Oh, looks like you owe Dagan James $4,000. It's like, now I don't want that to happen. When it's over, it's over, and all of the bottom line is there, and then we divide by 2, and then I get a check. Then I look at it and go, okay, how workable is this? Presumably it is workable, but how workable is this? And then, okay, what happens with Spawn 10? If we actually get some backup from Todd McFarlane and somebody besides Bleeding Cool in the comic book field agrees to talk about Dave Simmons' Cerebus again, which nobody has for the last 25 years, so I'm really not counting on that. But Todd McFarlane being a stand-up guy and going, yeah, I'm not going to pretend that I don't know Dave Sims. He did Spawn 10 for me, and that was a big deal at the time, a big deal for both of us. Todd's not the kind of guy who goes, well, Dave Sim isn't politically correct, so Dave who? I have no idea who you're talking about. But it's also going to be, does he like what we do? So, we're going to be sending him prototypes of everything associated with it, and if he looks at it, and if Dagan James put it together, I think the odds are that Todd's going to go, this is really cool. Everybody needs to buy these. Then it's, okay, nobody has to have all of these. You can buy the $10 copy, or you can buy the gold, whatever the equivalent of the gold, platinum, and red is this time around. Or you can buy these 8 different versions, the whole dog and pony show that everybody's doing in this day and age online, who has that kind of cachet. Spawn 10 and Turtles 8 are the only 2 where I have that kind of cachet. Cerebus is a completely marginal thing, and always has been, and always will be a completely marginal thing. So, any questions on what I said there? Anything that you think automatically this is what people are going to ask about?
No. I'm sure I'm going to get inundated with people going, well, what about this? What about that? And it's going to be, when there's I keep telling people, when there's going to be an announcement, as soon as I know, I'll let you know.
Right.
Like, I'm probably gonna send an email to Dagan going, okay, hey, we talked about it for 20 minutes. I'd send you the link before I post it, but I'm not gonna do it this time because, it's all publicity at this point.
Right. And I can definitely assure everybody that the timing on this is the Spawn 10 Kickstarter launches when we start getting reports of people getting their Cerebus #1 packages. I think that was one of the things that helped back in April, May, when we were doing the Cerebus #1 Kickstarter, was that launched at the same time that the Cerebus Archive Portfolio #8 were starting to arrive. I mean, it does space it out in a way that acknowledges people have limited financial resources. They're really, really devoted Cerebus fans, but you can't be gouging them for giant amounts of money every month just because you came up with something else that you want them to buy. It's when they paid for Cerebus Archive Portfolio #8, it's like, okay, that's a major commitment, but I know that I'll really enjoy it when I get it in, and it'll be worth the money, but I really don't want to be talking about those kinds of amounts of money until the next time that we're actually talking about this, which, as I say, is like 4 or 5 months later. I think sticker shock wears off at that point, and the next one's going to be the Spawn 10. There will be high-end packages, excuse me, that the average person can't afford, but Spawn 10 isn't a human right. Spawn 10 is a luxury good that count yourself lucky if you have the kind of revenue and the kind of bank account